Hello everybody, my name is Gerhard Nachtmann, I'm the chair for the session Community and Open and Reproducible Science. We have 4 talks today. The first one is by Edzer Pebesma. Edzer is an ordinary member of the R Foundation and first author of the book Spatial Data Science. He tells us something about retirement of R packages. We already heard about in some keynotes that some packages need to be retired. And Edzer, it's up to you now.
Thank you for the introduction. So I have to apologize for Roger, who would have loved to be here, but well, not only he retired, he would have been here, but he got a grandson born at 7:30 this morning. So there was a good reason for him, for them to. Yeah, I hope he's listening. A good reason for them to not attend. So Roger and I are both members of the R Foundation. I'm associated with the University of Muenster. Roger is retired from the Norwegian School of Business in Bergen. I apologize for my slides. I made them with our studio for HTML viewing, and they look a little bit odd, but I think everything is in it, so that's the main thing. So what happened if packages retire? Well, I discussed that with some people. Of course, when you think I'm going to retire, you think who would continue maintaining my package, right? That is always a good idea, so that things can continue. Sometimes that is not an option. I'll give a little bit of an overview of our spatial and the OSGeo libraries that we use, why packages retire, how we try to minimize the damage to the CRAN ecosystem. That was basically our main goal, and some lessons that we learned, and try to make some future recommendations. So open source geospatial is a group of people and activities that basically look at mostly at software environments and all kind of projects. All these projects, including the R spatial projects, tend to revolve about a few simple concepts. One is that of simple feature access, which is an open standard for a way to describe point line and polygon geometries. It's essentially that you sort of have points and you connect them with straight lines, yeah, whatever straight lines mean, but that's another discussion. Main thing is that there are 3 important libraries that all the open source geospatial software seems to revolve around and reuse. So if we think PostGIS, QuantumGIS, but also even systems like Google Earth Engine and so on, and even ArcGIS, and so we'll make use of these data, of these libraries. One of them is Proj. It's a C++ library for cartographic projections and datum transformations. So that is sort of what is the meaning of coordinates. How do I make sure that my coordinates work with other data that have coordinates expressed in another way? So how do we define these things? Geos is a library for computing measures or computing geometrical predicates, like do 2 geometries intersect, or what is their intersection? Do transformers, like what is the centroid of a geometry, or what is a buffer around a certain geometry? All these kind of things it does in a 2-dimensional flat space. And GDAL, the Geographic Data Abstraction Library, is a library to read and write vector data, raster data in about something like 300 different file formats. So that basically solves the whole file format problem for once and for all, for everyone, if you use that library. The thing is that it's a library, it's sort of a meta library that reuses all kind of libraries for particular formats, right? So for instance, GeoPackage is a special dialect of SQLite. It doesn't re-implement SQLite, it needs SQLite library to run. GeoTIFF is a special form of TIFF that needs the libTIFF and so on. So kind of the GeoL library is a dependency, you could say hell, but everyone deals with it, right? And it deals with it in a good way so that we can do these things. So GDAL is essentially a library of something like 100 libraries or so combined. So all these environments all use that and reuse that. So, oh, sorry. There's some history of R spatial. There have been spatial R packages really from the start of R. There has been a library called Spatial, which is still there, which is part of the MAS package collection. There were already activities in S+. There has been like Spatstat library from the early days on and so on. Since 2003, we converged on a set of classes for vector and raster data, and that led to the packages SP and raster, essentially. RGDAL then came to interface GDAL in 2003, and RGEOS was the result of a Google Summer of Code project developed by Colin Rundle that interfaced the GEOS library. And the MapTools package is a collection of various useful things that accumulated for some reason there. There are a number of older legacy packages like Maps and MapProj that do cartographic projections, but they're kind of somewhat stuck and sort of unconnected to what the rest of the world does. The package SP predates the simple features standard and basically mirrors what was used in those days in 2003, 4, 5, and that was basically using shapefiles. So that model was mapped there. This is, this is hard to read. This is the cron landing page of SP. The message there is clear. The SP package provides classes and methods for spatial data. Did it in 2005 it started, and you can see that there is a long, large list of packages that reuse that. Yeah, so I maintain that, and it's sort of development stopped. Now, if I would pull this package off from cron and say, you know, please retire, archive this, then all these packages, there's sort of 300-400 packages down there, would all sort of fall down, right? And they would go, and then packages that use those packages would also go. So that would have sort of a large ripple effect on cron. That is something that you would like to avoid. However, with and here you see this sort of network graph. It is already 10 years old. This was sort of 8 years old, where you see that there's a couple of sort of clusters around packages and one clearly defined cluster around the things that reuse SP. SP has very little functionality, but kind of provides reusable components. Now, what we had with the packages that we're going to retire, RGDAL, RGEOS, and MapTools, is that we see there the dependencies, the strong dependencies are the dependencies depends and imports, right? So packages for which, for instance, RGDAL is really necessary to run, and the most dependencies include also suggests. Yeah, so that means packages that suggest RGDAL and that could be functional without having it, right? Then we have recursive strong, so that means recursive strong means packages that require RGDAL, sort of first or higher level dependencies in the strong context. For instance, packages that would use raster, and raster would then import RGDAL. And we have recursive most, and there you see that this is September 21. This is kind of all of cron. Yeah? If you kind of go that through, that is a kind of a useless number, but it's nevertheless there. So the binary packages now there's a reason why did we want to retire this package and not sort of go into finding new maintainers. So what cron does is that it builds binary packages for Windows and Mac OS, right? So that means that these binary packages are static builds, right? So that if you install a package like that, you don't have any requirements to installing additional software in your computer. So these static builds really come with these entire upstream libraries, and as a consequence, sometimes they're like 100 megabyte or something like that. Yeah, so that is a good thing. That means also at some stage some duplication, and also that's a lot of work to make these build systems and to build these packages consistently, given that also GEOS Proj and GDAL develop all the time, right? So they're in active development all the time. The cron team needs to regularly update that, and this regularly causes all kind of issues where things break or don't work or something like that. So this needs a lot of communication in both ways that we do with Uwe, with Kurt and Thomas and Simon and so on with the cron team and requires problem-solving skill. And we communicate problems again upstream to the developers of GEOS Proj and GDAL and so on. So that is in principle a good thing. SF then came out in 2016 and supports simple features in R. It uses S3 rather than S4. SP used S4 because in 2003 we thought that S4 was sort of new projects should use S4. That was kind of the thing that we thought, and then later on that was sort of not completely the case. Yeah? For instance, tidyverse did not work well with these things, and SF integrates with tidyverse and ggplot. SP never did that in a right way. Then we had two new packages, stars and Terra, basically there for DataCube or raster type data that came in 2018 and 20, kind of replacing raster. So why packages retire, why we retire these packages is that it can be a lot of work to maintain these packages. Packages can get superseded by better solutions. At some stage you need to tell people you better use this than that. And maintainers retire. Roger Bivand retired and a few years ago. The code in the RGDAL and RGS packages are really hard to read, so it's not recommended. We cannot recommend it to anyone to really start reading. Try to read it. It uses the older.call interface to R, which of course works, but it's pretty much a nightmare to work with if you ever touched something like RCPP or similar C++11 or there's a lot of code that actually is written kind of for upstream changes. So there's endless conditional branches in the C code for changes in the upstream libraries. Then we had raster data that moved to stars and Terra, and we got in 2021 our consortium-funded project that we called our spatial evolution. So that is reported here. There are a number of blog posts on the rspatial.org. This is me in 2021, given that when the user conference was completely online because of the corona, where I repeated this tweet. This was back in the days that we were active on Twitter, where I repeated, sort of announced that RGDAL and RGEOS, this is wrongly subtitled, RGDAL and RGEOS were going to retire in 2021, and repeated that tweet, and where Roger added that it's not such a good idea to continue maintaining these packages. It is a waste of time, really. There is new things coming up. So then we decided to, in 2021, we announced that this was going to retire in 2024. It happened to be end of 2023, the final retirements. How did we do that? We try to interact a lot with users, with end users and package developers that were affected. We reported our progress on our spatial evolution blocks. There are 4 of them, where the different stages of what we did was reported and explained, and the reasons were explained. And we try to handle reverse dependencies in the sense of minimize the damage done. So one major thing there was that the package raster dropped its dependency on RGDAL. Raster has an enormous number of reverse dependencies, and it would always use RGDAL for reading and writing rasters. It didn't do anything by itself, it put RGDAL only in suggests. Yeah, so it didn't have that strong dependency, which Robert did, because people wanted to run raster on cluster computers where there were no upstream libraries and so on. So that was good, but it was not really functional. So that was an important thing. He then moved on to developing Terra, which has a direct link to all these upstream libraries, so which directly links to GDAL and GEOS, which was made possible essentially by the work of Jeroen Ooms, who back then did the rwinlib activities, making it very easy to compile packages, to build packages and install them on Windows computers, yeah, which made it for Robert much easier to pick up on that. Jeroen, who is now talking about our universe, which would also have been an interesting talk. We then ran constantly reverse dependency check, and then we emulated removal. So we would we would check all packages, and then without these packages present in the installed packages, and see how many packages would then break down. We also added heavy startup warnings in SP even to the extent that people got scared that SP would disappear or would be removed and so on. It was that sort of aggressive, so to speak. So we then also removed RGDAL and RGEOS dependencies in SP. Yeah? So SP is still alive, but anything it did with RGDAL and RGEOS, it now does with SF. Yeah? So SF is now a strong dependency of SP. So things still work. What it used, it didn't do reading and writing, but it used the code and reference system definitions, which are in RGDAL, which are in proj through RGDAL. And it did some geometric operations that we just removed from SP. So that is what it now still does through GDAL, but through the loop through SF essentially, which is still present. So there are some other things. Here is a paper that Roger published, Progress in the R ecosystem for representing and handling geospatial, handling spatial data in geographical systems, a journal where he discusses the whole process of how this was done. There were a number of harder dependencies, sort of harder packages that would use so much things from RGDAL that we could very hard sort of help them in migrating. The Fiesta package, which is a package developed by the USDA, this team developed a new package, which is called GDAL raster, which gives a very low-level API, sort of an R API to low-level functionality of the GDAL library, things that STARS and Terra do not do. They provide more of a high-level interface. Ursa package now imports SF and is still alive, and also just suggests GDAL raster, Terra, and STARS. We found out that we got more, so if you approach package maintainers, you can send emails. Kurt already mentioned that in his keynote on Tuesday, that the effect of sending emails is kind of somewhat eroding. You can send emails, right? And a lot of emails, they never arrive or don't have an effect. So there was more response from GitHub or GitLab issues or RForge, wherever the packages resided, than from emails to package maintainers. It was also necessary to irritate people and also to provide packages for numerous packages. That was done, so suggestions how package could migrate and update and drop their dependencies. The package API written by Gabor Xardi was also very useful. It's basically a package that lets you find out which function of a certain package are used by another package, so you have an idea where are the problems, what are the things that we want to migrate. You can't migrate everything. This works for functions and S3 methods. I think S4 methods were not really there, so that was a gap in our knowledge, so to speak. Yeah. Then we had a watch list start in June 2023, so we were going to retire in October 2023. This was ran nightly, so every night there would be a complete fresh checkout from all the crown packages depending that had dependencies on RGDAL, RGEOS, or map tools, and we could sort of monitor whether revisions had appeared and the number of dependencies had dropped. This would also check for new issues and where we could react on them. Then we announced that the retirement would be October 2023, and shared and also published the watch list output that you can now also find. Here is a time graph where you can see the solid black line is the number of packages depending on either RGDAL, RGEOS, or map tools from June 2023 until October. In October 23, in half October we retired the package, so you can see that a number of packages at that moment were also archived at the same moment. Yeah? So the packets depending on RGDAL, RGEOS, or map tools were back then reduced to about 70 or so, and they were retired at that moment. And for a number of those packages, that was kind of a natural retirement because there were replacements found, and other packages were simply not maintained, right? So this is kind of what naturally happens then. Here you can see the number of reverse dependencies. So it increases still slightly into 2020 and 2021, and then in 2022 you see it slowly decreasing and dropping to a very low number that essentially is zero at the end. When we really pulled Argidos and map tools from cron. Here you see the page rank. So this is a number of sort of reverse dependencies of packages where you see in dotted lines those two Argidos and map tools. So they kind of become less and less important, less and less connected to other packages in the cron ecosystem. And you see the other packages, SF and Terra, basically taking over. You see also SP decline, which is good in the archival date when things then drastically changed. So the recommendations are, if you want to retire one or more heavily used cron packages and limit the damage, so to speak, to the cron ecosystem, then I think it's best to announce early, widely, loudly, and often, and then actively approach package maintainers, irritate them, and help them migrate, help them with sketching solutions, how they could continue, or even with pull requests. Closely watch the development of reverse dependencies and communicate with the cron team. Of course, this was also needed because of the complexity of these packages for the cron team. And ask for help and support from the community. So that is the end of my talk. I want to thank Roger Bivand for his tireless efforts on this nice retirement project, to the R Consortium for supporting this project. And we had a reference group of key package developers and users of around size 5 or so that we communicated with, and that also gave us helpful feedback on planning and approaching this problem. So thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Edzer. We have time for short questions, 1 or 2.
Edzer, you talked a lot about the kind of the technical side of it. I was wondering if you could comment a bit on like the feels as well. Like, how did the community respond? Like, did you find a lot of support, or were people angry about you yanking this away from them? How did that go in general?
It was mixed. So in many cases there was, like, for a long time there was no support, no reactions, right? People think, oh, end of 2023, that's so far away. In general, I think the response was generally positive. Yeah, the one issue is, of course, that you affect much more than cron packages. Right, so there is all these scripts and all these sort of environments that people set up and that run, and then on some stage they say, "Hey, it doesn't run anymore. Why didn't somebody tell me?" Right? That's why we had these warning messages on when you would load SP, you got 5 lines of warning that everything is going to retire, like for a year or so. Very annoying. So I hope just that we didn't destroy too much of things that used to be reproducible now are no longer, right? But in general, I think. In overall, the responses were positive.
Thanks for that. One more question possible? No. Then, yeah. Uwe.
Yeah. So it's not a question, but rather a comment, is that Edzer and particularly Roger Bivand were extremely helpful and reduced the workload of the CRN team a lot. And I don't want to imagine what happened if Roger just ran away or so. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Uwe.